Oh, good afternoon. How are you? How's it going, guys? I'm back. Yet another week in quarantine, in lockdown. And if you clicked on the thumbnail, you probably saw that I made some awesome cinnamon rolls. Now, these things look and smell absolutely amazing. I'm really looking forward to digging into these. I had a little bit of trouble with the recipe, but I was really happy to find some yeast at my local grocery store. So, let's see. Actually, before I do that, I want to loosen the sides of this a little bit. Hopefully that'll help it come out of this pan a little bit easier. Oh, yeah, it's not too bad at all. So I was happy to find some yeast, which means that I am back able to bake a couple of things. Come on. Oh no, are these things stuck? Oh, that's the worst. Okay. I don't know how the heck I'm going to get these things out. I don't know that if I need these things out of this pan, I'm just going to eat them straight out of this pan. We don't need this big pan. Yeah, I wasn't super stoked about how the recipe turned out. The dough was really, really incredibly loose, like way looser than I think that it should have been. But, oh, and the baking time for these, the suggested baking time was 10 to 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, like, they were still raw, so I ended up leaving them in there in the oven for 25 minutes. So I hope I didn't screw it up or anything. I don't know, maybe these were just supposed to be like super, super raw and doughy on the inside. Maybe that's how you get it like extra gooey. Some nice cream cheese frosting on top. Oh my gosh. First bite, still warm, out of the oven for, I don't know, a half an hour ago. Oh my goodness. Knowing how to bake and being able to bake is a really dangerous skill. Ugh. That filling. It's just butter and brown sugar and a little bit of cinnamon. It's really, really good. This is the kind of thing that I could eat every single day. If only it didn't take 2 hours of work to make these things. Oh my goodness. Well, I think I'm going to enjoy myself some cinnamon rolls for lunch, even though I probably shouldn't. Ah, so delicious. Some of this crusty stuff on the bottom of the pan. I wonder if the filling, like, came out. Kind of spilled out on the bottom. Those burnt crusties really make them good. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry for anybody who clicked on this to talk about video games, because I think it might be a little while before I get to that. I want to see what the bottom of one of these things actually looks like. If I turn it over, I expect it'll look a little bit like a... Oh my goodness. Look at that. That's where all the filling went. No frosting needed. I am super enjoying these things, guys. I think I could use a little bit of work with working dough and stuff like that for cinnamon rolls, but these are pretty dang good. All right. Looks like we've already got a couple of folks in the chat. Brian Moore asks, what games are we talking, Steve? I'm interested to know what type of games you're into. Well, I'm in the video games industry, so I'm into all types of games. Anything new, anything innovative, just anything. Now, as somebody who's worked on like the actual console side of things, more than video games themselves, I feel like I've got a pretty unique perspective on the way that consoles and the industry as a whole has really evolved over time. And I'm really looking forward to this next generation of consoles with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation .V next, whatever the number is. Is it PS5, PS6, something like that? I'm looking forward to it. Some of my favorite games are typically like story-driven adventure games. You know, I really like the Legend of Zelda series. I really like the Elder Scrolls series, stuff like that. But yeah, like anything innovative, anything unique is gonna catch my eye. Eric Gunnarsson, welcome to the stream, says the handyman Steve is on top. Great to see you again. Yeah, great to see you too. I'm glad everybody made it through the weekend. MJC, hey Steve, how was your weekend? My weekend was pretty good. I was glad to go for a nice long 13 or 14 mile run yesterday on some pretty hilly trails. Left me pretty ravaged, so I'm refueling today after leaving myself pretty spent yesterday. AJAT, cinnamon rolls are the best. I wonder if adding strawberries on top would add to the awesome flavor. And of course, I mean, I've had strawberries and cream cinnamon rolls before. And they are definitely really, really good. I mean, you can't go wrong with something like that. MJC, you say cinnamon rolls are your personal favorite. That's not a bad favorite to have, I gotta say. You know, whether you're talking like cinnamon rolls out of the can or cinnamon rolls like Cinnabon, like they're always super, super good. And one of my favorite challenges ever was down in Longview in Stuffy's 2. I talk about it all the time, so I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing about it. But when I ate, or attempted to eat, a 25-pound cinnamon roll with Nader, Freak Eating, and Max Carnage from the Big Eaters Club, it was awesome to meet those guys, eat with them. And Stuffy's 2, this really cool, eclectic restaurant down in Longview, Washington. Not in like a giant metropolitan area or in the middle of a city or something like that. Just a really great restaurant. And there are like 6-pound cinnamon rolls that you can order anytime are great. They're 10-pound cinnamon rolls that you can order for a personal challenge is awesome. And they just started doing the 25-pound cinnamon rolls not too long ago. Eric Winneker says, hey Steve, made cinnamon buns last weekend. Can't go wrong. Well, I don't know. I've gone wrong a couple of times trying to make them, but I think these ones turned out pretty good. I think the texture of them could use a little bit of improvement. I'm going to try a different recipe next time, though. Like I said, the dough was way too loose. So these are a little bit less like brioche than I would expect, but still pretty dang good. Enough butter and sugar on them and you can't go wrong. All right. So, yeah, I've always been fascinated by the way that the video game industry is evolving over a whole, and how it kind of like it really closely mirrors the way that the movie and the music industry have evolved over the years. Of course, video games are a little bit newer medium than those. Some people could say that it's evolving differently. I mean, the parallels are just way too specific and way too accurate to really pass up. But like, it seems like, back in the day, well, let's say, it seems like both movies and music have gone through this trend of, going to a brick and mortar store. Well, first they started with, movie theaters or live concerts, going to a specific place. And then they evolved to going to a brick and mortar store to buy your own media, stuff like that. Have like an at-home experience. And then in the 90s, I think it was, no, maybe not in the 90s. Maybe a little bit in the late 90s. But you started to see streaming services pop up for music. And nowadays it's like the only way that musicians can really expect to make just about any money at all is through streaming services. And I do believe that they also make a lot of money on, well, a decent amount of money on live concerts, stuff like that. And I don't mean the big people who sell, tens of millions of albums, stuff like that. I'm sure they make plenty of money anytime, anywhere they go. But it's like most of the revenue comes through streaming services, and that's absolutely the same for Netflix, Amazon Prime movies. We've seen this huge explosion of streaming services for TV and movies, stuff like that. You get a la carte, on demand. So I really think that's absolutely the inevitable way that the next video game console generation is going to go. And it's really interesting to see that Google, I think it's Google, is coming out with, well, they're developing a console. I don't know if they're going to come out with it. It seems like Google and Valve have both tried their hat in the video game arena a couple of times in the past, and it's just never worked for them. Because like the bar of entry to make a video game console is so extraordinarily high that, if you're not an established a player in the market already, it's just almost impossible to get in. I mean, I think it's pretty incredible that back in the day, let's see, when was the Xbox, the original Xbox, released? Xbox. Wikipedia. We're doing some internet searching. Let's see. And of course, immediately after I started doing this, somebody decided that would be a great time to get out the power tools. So I'm sure you guys can hear, drilling and hammering in the background, and I apologize about that. And I think that's really irritating. But, it happens every now and then, I guess. Okay, what was I looking at? Yeah, looking at some Xbox stuff. Let's see, this article is about Xbox for the 2001 console. So Xbox came out 18 years ago in, looks like November, the holiday of 2001. And Xbox, let's try Xbox 360. Xbox 360 release dates. That was holiday of 2005. So the original Xbox had a lifespan for 4 years. And during that entire time, like, Microsoft expected to lose money over the course of that entire console generation. And the fact that they broke even, like just completely even, didn't make any money on the Xbox console was kind of astounding. Like, that was not expected. And then, of course, Xbox 360 came along, completely blew away PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2? No, PlayStation 3. That's right. Completely blew away PlayStation 3. And, things were going swimmingly for Microsoft and the Xbox console for a while. And I think that that generation of consoles was extraordinarily long and great for Xbox. And they did a lot of really innovative things. Like, I feel like a lot of people discount the fact that the Xbox was the first console to have an Ethernet cable on the back of it. And, like, when it first came out, people scoffed at it, like, what the heck are you going to do with that? And nowadays, going online is basically like, you just absolutely expect it. So I think it's pretty cool that they've been innovating, pushing the envelope with a lot of stuff that they're doing. It's really interesting to see that the timing that the Nintendo Switch came out was coincident with kind of an explosion of virtual reality and things like that. And the console really lent itself to virtual reality. Like, it didn't have the most powerful CPU, didn't have the most powerful or the biggest like storage space in it. I think it just it's just internal storage of 32 gigs or something like that. It's very small, but it has an outsized graphics processing unit. It's not as powerful as the PlayStation or the Xbox One, not by any measure, but like it's got an outsized graphics processing unit, which is really great for 3D virtual reality, that kind of stuff. And it has those like independent motion controls. They're not really motion controls, but the independent controls, the Joy-Cons, also lend themselves to being used autonomously with one in each hand, which is great for virtual reality. So I could see that it was very clear that Nintendo was trying to tap into the virtual reality market with Nintendo Switch, and it's kind of a shame that nothing really came of that. I know Xbox One and PlayStation 4 tried their hand with virtual reality. I think Microsoft HoloLens was kind of aiming to go into various different markets, ended up not really being a big thing in gaming at all, and virtual reality was basically a flash in the pan with this last try. So, like, I feel like the upcoming, the next evolution of games is basically going to be streaming games. And it's very possible that the next generation of gaming consoles are going to be the last generation of gaming consoles of, the kind of console where everybody's going to go buy one, put it underneath your television, and have everything happening on the console right there. Of course, physical local gaming consoles probably always going to be a thing for emerging markets like, I don't know, Sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia. Plenty of markets there that are big into video games. Big potential for video games, I should say. Probably not big markets right now, but will be certainly in the future. So it's interesting to see that with the Xbox Series X, which I don't know if you guys have seen this, absolutely crazy looking console that's coming out. Ooh, let's look up Xbox Series X. Next console they announced, so Microsoft announced this earlier this year. Yeah, look at this. I mean, it looks like something out of a science fiction movie. Like, it's such a ridiculous looking console. I assume that it can be used in this vertical orientation like they have in the picture here, or, like tilted over on its side. But the like the updated generation, the 0.5 generation of the Xbox console, or the Xbox One console, which was the Xbox One X, which, by the way, the naming convention, whoever handles this naming conventions for Xbox consoles, just cool it. You guys, somebody needs to smack them upside the head. Like, stop it. These names are ridiculous. Let's make the name short. You had your Xbox. You had your Xbox 360, which was a weird number. Basically, they called it the Xbox 360 because they wanted to compete with the PlayStation 3, and they wanted to have an excuse to put 3 in the name of Xbox 360. And then they went back to Xbox One. It's like, what are you guys doing? Just stop with these ridiculous names. I hate them. But anyway, I work at Microsoft, but I have no control over that, so please don't blame me for it. So anyway, as I was saying, so the Xbox One Series X, which was like the mid-generation update, came out with, I think, 6 times the graphical power and like only a marginally more powerful CPU. So obviously they're going for that virtual reality thing. So I assume that this new console, the Xbox Series X, is going to have, just incredible graphics processing power, 6 teraflops or whatever. I don't know what the exact numbers are. But on top of that, Microsoft has been building this giant networking infrastructure with their Azure, not networking infrastructure, but a server infrastructure, cloud compute infrastructure with their Azure services, and they're putting them all over the world. Which, again, even if you aren't streaming games, having that ability to tap into a server that's local to you is definitely going to increase download speeds and stuff like that. So are discs and local play going away? Probably not. I don't think so. As long as we have emerging markets, like I said, East Asia, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa. But I think in the what do they call it? Like the Emacs territory? Is that what it's called? No, I don't think that's it. EFIGs, that's it. The EFIGs territories, which are it's an acronym that stands for English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish, which are the main markets for video games right now. But I think for those territories, like game streaming is definitely just a couple of years away, where you're going to be able to stream any game on any device, and you'll like rent space, a la, like Netflix or something like that for your games. I'm personally looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really awesome to be able to play, AAA games on your phone or something like that, and then you'll probably have like a set-top box on your hooked up to your 70-inch television or whatever to play the premium experience at your house. So I'm super looking forward to the way that video games are going to be moving in the future. Unfortunately, since we are all locked down with COVID-19, I've been through a couple of console generations before. So I feel like the tech for the consoles for Xbox One Series X, Xbox Series X, it's not an Xbox One. But I feel like the tech is probably mostly in place. I don't know. So we'll see how the release schedule shakes out because of this whole COVID-19 lockdown thing. I do know that Microsoft did kind of a savvy move with announcing the release date for the next console. Instead of giving it a specific date, they just said, holiday of 2020. So that gives them a little bit of leeway. I know that if you don't launch a game or game console before Black Friday, before Thanksgiving weekend, that can really eat into sales. But if they did have to push it back to make sure that they got everything ironed out, because I assume that production is probably slowed down a little bit because of the COVID-19 lockdown, then that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Then they release with a better product. I'd hope so anyway. I expect that both Microsoft and Sony are going to announce some really big, great things this coming E3, which, of course, unfortunately, not going to be a live event. E3 is always kind of cool, in my opinion. Everybody's going to be doing it remotely, so they're going to be doing the same thing that Nintendo's been doing for years and years, and announcing the upcoming. I assume that there's going to be announcements for upcoming game consoles. It looks like, from the rumors that I've heard and the news that I've read online, it sounds like Sony is going to push it back and do a 2021 launch time frame for their new console, which could be bad, could be good. I don't know. I mean, there's the idea that the early bird gets the worm with launching these new consoles. So I think Microsoft is really in a great position to grab a huge chunk of the market. And I hope they do, because I think Xbox consoles, they're great. I mean, Sony is obviously a hardware company. They obviously make excellent hardware, but the software support for their consoles is just never as good as Microsoft, in my opinion. And the funny thing is that I've been working on my electrical engineering degree, and the class I'm taking this quarter is a project class. And right now I'm working with some hardware to try to make my own rinky-dink little handheld gaming device. And I'm using some of these boards like this guy. I think that this guy's going to be integrate into my final product. There's a lot going on this board, but it's got a weaker CPU, and I think it's just too big, too clunky. I don't know what I can do with it. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to turn this guy into my own handheld gaming console in a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I don't have years and millions of dollars to pour into this project, so probably not going to be quite as good as a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox One or something like that. But I think it's going to be pretty cool. All right, I've been rambling on about video games and everything like that, and I am super surprised that I've still got people in this live stream. I know that I can just ramble on about crazy stuff and just go off into the weeds when I talk about some of these subjects that are a little bit more arcane. Oh my goodness. It looks like we've got a couple of new comments. Crouching. I don't want to lose a single bite of the cinnamon roll. Crouching Biger. Awesome name. Says, hey Steve, I've been watching your channel for a while. Were you much of a gamer in the past too? Yeah, man, I was a total gaming addict when I was a kid, when I was younger. Like I played the crap out of my Nintendo consoles. And like, it's no doubt that my love of video games in the past have really inspired me to go into the video games industry. It's a little bit unfortunate that making video games is so extraordinarily hard and time consuming that like doesn't leave me a whole lot of time to play games much anymore, but still I think they're an awesome medium. I think that video games themselves are definitely not like a critical I don't know, like a critical technology. If, you know, for example, if I was at Boeing, which is another one of the big companies in this area, then the work that I would do would be much more, I don't know if I would say like, it would be much more strenuous, it would be much more critical to make sure that everything worked perfectly. But with video games, there's a lot more leeway. Because like if something in your video game breaks, then, you know, your game crashes and you kind of, well, that sucks. But, you know, you can launch it up, play it some more. But with airplanes, like if something breaks, that's a horrible disaster, right? So everything needs to go perfectly right with some of those critical systems. But with video games, you can play a little bit more fast and loose and like try to push the envelope, push the technology a little bit further. So that's one of the reasons that I really like being in the video games industry. Produce Not Pills says, are those homemade or from a can? No, they're homemade, man. Made with my own two hands. I was very happy to find some yeast the other day at the grocery store. So not too much, only 3 little sachets of yeast, but I'm gonna make use of them, man. Eric Ginnerson, let me know that you guys are still with me. Awesome. Yeah, I feel like it'd be cool to just ramble about some of the minutia of video game development or something like that every now and then. Talk about, you know, turning around code or some of the incredible advancements they're doing with graphics nowadays. But again, I think that's kind of an arcane subject matter that probably most people aren't too too interested in. Speaking of making video games, I think I've eaten enough sugar to keep me fueled for at least a week and a half sitting in front of this computer programming, making sure that the video game we're working on right now comes out on time and 110%. So I'm so glad everybody is able to hang out with me today in the live stream. Always great to see you guys. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I hope you're looking forward to yet another week in isolation. Yay! Oh my gosh. I'm looking forward to another week of eating incredible lunches, whatever kind of snacks and candy and fast food and whatever I can get my hands on. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Hope you guys stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and until next time, you have a good one.